You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Bork. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday. Hump Day. 14th day of September 2016. Now, that's not a naughty word. It means we are, depending upon your time zone, over the hump for the week. If you look at the week as one of those curves, bell curves, right? So you've just, if you're on the East Coast, you've just tipped over the top of that bell curve, and you're on the downward slide into the weekend. Now, everybody's working for the weekend. It's a big deal. What are you going to do with your weekend? Have you thought about it? Of course you have. Boating, fishing, golfing. What's it going to be? Maybe you're going to volunteer at the shelter. Maybe you're going to serve lunch on Saturday. Maybe you are going to just spend some quiet time with your spouse. Maybe you're going to take the family to the movies. what I'm trying to encourage you to do is live life on purpose. There's too much happenstance. Let's be a people who live life on purpose. If you're brand new to this show, I want to welcome you, and I hope you'll enjoy your stay. If there's anything we can do to make your stay more enjoyable, well, by golly, use the chat box, and we'll do everything that we can to access the chat box, as well as to be able to see the charts, because we'll display a lot of charts throughout the radio program. Go to our homepage, CFRN.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions, click where it says Watch Live Now. 30 seconds later, you got to fill out a little registration form. You'll be staring at the charts, and you'll have access to the chat box. Now, the beauty of the chat box is you've got a worldwide audience. You want to crack wise? You can do that. Got something on your chest? You want to get it off? You can do that. Perhaps you've made an astute observation in the markets about some particular thing, and you want to share that with your fellow traders. You can do that. This is your radio show. I show up here every day for you, not for me. So CFRN is to be looked at not as a spectator sport, but a participation sport. You come here every day not to just kick back and chill, but to participate, to help make the show come alive, to give it purpose and direction and meaning. You can do that. Just let your fingers dance across the keyboard. And if your thoughts are so heavy that you can't carry them across the keyboard, let me know via the chat box. And you know what I'll do? I'll open up your mic and I'll let you talk to the world. I'll make you famous, perhaps infamous. From a digital perspective, I will even make you immortal. Now, for those of you that are returning, you are indeed a brave soul. Hey, thank you for your presence. So good to have you with us. Every day is like a homecoming on one of those Gaither. You ever seen the Gaither family, those homecoming shows where they all stand around and pick the guitar, and I think it's called the guitar, and somebody's on the piano and they're all just singing. And man, I'm telling you, my grandmother spent more hours when she lived, from the time my grandfather passed, so she went to the place she lives now, which is an assisted living center, but it's not an institutional setting. It's a southern home that this wonderful lady decided to turn into a care center. It's a business. However, she treats the people there like family, not like patients, not like a paycheck, but like family. And so my grandmother's no longer isolated with the Gaither family and Jesus. She actually has friends. She's surrounded by people who are of her age, grew up in the time that she grew up in. And she's said to me more than once, son, I wake up smelling bacon and I didn't have to cook it. I go to the table and they've already set my plate. When I'm done eating, they wash the dishes. And I get to go and sit in the living room with my friends. Sometimes we sing songs. Sometimes we read our Bible. Sometimes we watch a little TV. We can do anything we want. She says, son, I think I might already be in heaven. Now, for some people, that would be absolute torture. But my grandmother was the type of person that could always take the most dire of situations and see something, find something good in it. Situations, people, circumstances. She truly believed that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Now, she had a ministry at our church. And of course, you know, ministry, if you're a churchgoer, being in ministry is kind of a big thing. Titles, name on the door, you know, the youth pastor, the media pastor. Oh gosh, there's a pastor for everything. Well, my grandmother, she was the pastor of cleaning the toilets. And I'm going to tell you something. She treated that job with the same respect as if she were the pastor of the church. I'd go with her on Saturday nights. She had keys to the church. And just the sheer fact that, and it was a small country church, but just the fact that they had entrusted her with those keys, you would have thought they were made of the finest gold. She kept them safe. She kept them secure. And she went in there on a Saturday night, not grumbling, not complaining because she's got to clean the bathrooms. She took pride in her work because she taught me at a young age, son, I'm not working for the pastor. I'm not working for the congregation. I'm working for God, for my Creator, for the one who died for me. That's who I'm doing this for. And then on Sunday mornings, she'd get there early, just in case somebody broke in overnight and messed up that bathroom, because she wanted it to be an example of how much she loved God, and she only wanted to give him her very best. I want to encourage you in whatever you do, wherever you are on the food chain, whether you're the big dog with the big office and the windows and all that, and the ergonomically correct chair, or if you're working down in the mailroom, do that job as if you're working for God. You know what? Pretty soon it won't seem like such drudgery, such hard work. You'll get some pep in your step. And you know what? There are public CEOs today who started out in the mailroom. You should Google that. You should find out who they are. I could tell you, but it would be the same. If you go do the research yourself. Find out where some of the big names with the big, you know, 9-figure paychecks started in the company. Now, do you think if they'd have come in grumbling and complaining every day, they would have ever risen up through the ranks and excelled the way they did? No. No, I bet you they came in and they gave it 100% every day. Even when they didn't feel like it, even when they were a little sick, even when they were a little tired, they showed up, they did their job to the very best of their ability. And as believers, we should be the best husband that we can be, the best father that we can be, the best example we can be to the world of what it is to have a personal relationship with our Creator. Because for some people, the only Jesus they'll ever see is the Jesus they see in you. Ask yourself this question. What are they going to see? A let's take a look at the numbers. These are cash markets. This is a show about all things E-mini, so we take great pride in confusing you by starting out with the cash markets. Actually, we do it because those are the numbers that you hear when you turn on the radio or the TV and they're spouting the S&P was up this much and the Dow was up this. They're talking about cash markets, which, interestingly enough, you can't buy or sell. I had an interesting conversation about that fact with a gentleman this morning, but we'll leave that for another day. The Dow is up 70 points. The NASDAQ is up 40 points. Now, that's close to 1%. S&P 500 is up 9 points. That's almost half of 1%. And the Russell 2000 is up 3 points. That's just, well, what can I say? That's 3 points, all right? Now, in our commodity basket, crude oil inventories came out today. We're down 92 cents, and that's a little over 2% on the day. Gold, on the other hand, got a little bump today, up $3.40. As we turn to our Asian markets, the Nikkei is down 114 points, over half of 1%. The Shanghai is down 20 points, over half of 1%. Hang Seng is down 25 points, and that's, well, it's just 25 points. Now, the Americas were red. I'm sorry, the Americas were green. Asia was red. And the European markets are mixed. The DAX is down 8 points. The FTSE is up 7 points. And the CAC is down 16. There's not a mover or shaker in the bunch. So I know that there is some big news coming out tomorrow morning. And let's take a quick peek, see at that. Because for those of you who are trading the overnight session, it's important that you know about these news events. And oftentimes, many of the economic calendars out there, they don't give you the global picture. So I recommend the calendar at investing.com. Pretty soon, you'll be able to use the economic calendar, the global economic calendar, at freecharts.com. That is the newest CFRN property, the newest member of the CFRN family, and our lead designer, Luttrell, is working fast and furious to breathe life into that. Now, when you go to the site, you don't see any work going on. That's all being done behind the scenes. When it's ready to be released, we will have a live reveal right here on this radio program. I don't know how many weeks out we are. I don't want to rush her. She's going to do an excellent job because she, like my grandmother, strives for excellence in all that she does. And so when the time is right, we'll throw the switch and we'll all together as a group, we'll go over to freecharts.com and we'll look at all the different features, and we'll look at that economic calendar, and we'll look at the Chicago Board of Options news feed and some surprises that we have in store. Okay. Today being Wednesday, we of course had crude inventories, which came in with a green number, which I find a little bit confusing, but maybe when Michael comes on, he can explain that to you, and he'll be here in just a second. Now, this morning, before Wall Street woke up, Great Britain had some high-impact news events. Their average earnings index plus bonus was up 2.3%. That was a little higher than expected. Their claimant count change, that was a red number. They were looking for 1.8 thousand and they got 2.4 thousand. Now, as we scroll on down through the week, we don't have anything big going on in the U.S. today, but tonight, if you are trading the Asian session at 6:45 p.m. Eastern, that's 45 minutes after the markets reopen, New Zealand is going to release their GDP. Now, believe it or not, little old New Zealand can actually rock the markets if they have a big win or a big miss, a hit or a miss of that number. And for about 15 minutes, you could get knocked out of a trade and you're like going, whoa, what happened? Where did that come from? Well, there you go. Then at 21:30 tonight, that's 9:30 p.m. Eastern, Australia is going to release their employment change. That's high impact. Tomorrow, China is taking a holiday. It's called the Mid-Autumn Festival. Boy, I wish it were autumn here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's still 100 plus most days. Now, Switzerland, interestingly enough, at 3:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, this is high impact, they're going to release their interest rate decision. And then at 4:30 a.m. Eastern, Great Britain's going to release their retail sales. That's high impact. I know many of you still with day jobs, you arise early, you trade pre-market. If you're trading tomorrow morning at 4:30 a.m. Eastern, be aware. In Europe at 5 a.m., the Eurozone, they're going to release the CPI. That's a high impact number. And then at 7 a.m. Eastern, Great Britain's going to release their interest rate decision. And also at 7 a.m. Eastern, the Bank of England is going to have their MPC meeting minutes, which is, I think, similar to the Fed minutes that we receive here. So will that rock the boat? Don't rock the boat? Yeah, it will. All right. In the U.S., we actually have some high impact news at 8:30. Now, this is before Wall Street wakes up. So if you're trading pre-market, it's absolutely imperative that you be aware that core PPI and core retail sales, that's your high impact, are coming out at 8:30 a.m. In fact, there's a total of, my goodness, can I count them all? This is all at 8:30 tomorrow morning. I'm not going to read them all. Retail sales is high impact. I'll read that. PPI, that's high impact. I'll read that. Philly Fed, that's high impact. I'll read that. Core retail sales, that's high impact. I'll read that. But let me just count all the economic reports coming out tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern before Wall Street wakes up. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I don't think I've ever seen 18 economic reports come out in the U.S. in one day. And out of those 18, a good 5 or 6 of them are high impact. So when you come in and look at your charts tomorrow morning, if you're a 9:30 arriver, you're going to go, what? Well, now you know, okay, ahead of time. Why? Because you have a global economic calendar. And on Friday, China's still on holiday. Let's see. 8:30 a.m. here in the US of A. We've got core CPI. That's a high impact number. And we have a number of 10 a.m. news events, none of which are high impact. And that pretty much wraps up the week. Okay? So, a lot of news between now and the close of business on Friday. Last night, we sent out to our subscribers, as we do each and every evening, a list of 8 markets, 2 trades per market, and at the top of the list was the S&P 500 Emini Futures, and it said, if you have the opportunity, sell 21.26. The first move down was 4 3/4 points. Now we don't get out at the exact swing low because we trail our stop. We let the market take us out with profit. Second move down was 3 3/4 points per contract. The third move down was 8.5 points per contract. And the final move was 3 3/4 points per contract. That's what the market made available. Now this first little trigger here didn't go far, but it also didn't stop you out. Now this little blue band that we have running across the charts, that represents the 2015 high. Unlike the S&P 500 cash index, where you can just look at the chart and you know where the high was, when you're dealing with the Emini Futures, it's a little bit of a different story because we have these continuous charts and we roll over from one contract to the next, and it gets a little confusing. Now, I wasn't even going to attack it myself, but we do have the smartest audience in talk radio, and so they decided for me that the true number was somewhere between 21.27 and 21.29. That was the high of 2015. Look where we're trading. We traded through it yesterday, pulled back up. It acted as good resistance, pushed us down, back up, back down, back up, and then some pretty quiet action, small-bodied candles on the overnight session. And then this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, from 10 a.m. to 10:30, we actually rallied from a low at 21.22 to a high up at 21.32. So we had a 10-point move in 30 minutes. That, my friends, is volatility. We told you it was coming back, and boy, has it come back with a vengeance. And then we had another sell-off, good for 3 3/4 points. So that's just the S&P. Of course, before the show's over today, we'll cover the Dow. And by the way, thanks for that heads up on the Dow last night. One of our faithful subscribers sent me an email and said, hey, Dwayne, I think you might have missed the boat on the Dow. And so I checked it, lickety-split, and I sent everybody another email explaining the error of my ways. And it's really embarrassing when you send out a correction and you make an error in the correction. I'll show you that in a minute. It's pretty easy to figure out what I meant, but nonetheless, it's a little bit embarrassing, but I'll get over it, okay? We'll cover gold, we'll cover bonds, we'll cover crude oil, soybeans, the NASDAQ, and even the Russell, okay? So all that and Wayne Jett coming up at the top of the hour, 1 p.m. Eastern. He is my co-host every Wednesday. He is the author of the book, The Fruits of Graft. This is a man who poured over 6 years of his life into 5+ years of investigation. This isn't a lot of conspiracy theory spun into a book. This is a man who actually went down the rabbit hole. He followed the money. He connected the dots. He names names, and it's all in the book. Now, you can order it directly from his website, which is classicalcapital.com. That will be in tonight's show notes. Or you can grab the Kindle version and be reading the book by the time this radio show is over. So, whichever way you choose, I can't encourage you enough, get a copy of The Fruits of Graft. Wayne's website again, which will be in the show notes, and I'll bring it up as he comes on today at 1 p.m. Eastern, classicalcapital.com. Hillary is the big news. I'm not going to go into it other than to say it appears that she is suffering from some type of neurological disorder. When she stumbled and fell on Saturday or Sunday, instead of taking her to the emergency room, they took her to her daughter's home so that the attending physician at the nearest emergency room would not be made privy to whatever current health issues she has. Now, as a Christian and a believer, I pray for her health. Everyone knows that I certainly don't want to see her sitting in the Oval Office, but that's a political issue. It's more than politics. It's our country that hangs in the balance. But I will pray that she gets better. Now, that sounds crazy because some people go, well, man, you're going to pray for her so she can do more evil? You're going to pray for her so that she can kill more people or have more people killed? That the dead body count can grow? No, I'm praying that she'll get better and that somewhere in the midst of the sickness, she will change her ways, that she'll recognize that she's not the most powerful force in the world, but that God is. And perhaps she'll see just how fragile her life really is. And maybe, just maybe, she might turn to God with questions. He'll provide answers. And if she were to develop a personal relationship with her Creator, then the next 4 years might not be so bad. Because right now it's kind of looking like if she doesn't go to jail, and if God doesn't call her home, she could end up giving an inauguration speech in January. Now, I believe that there's still time. There's still hope. Mr. Trump has begun to act in most cases in a presidential manner. They say you can take the boy out of New York, but you can't take the New York out of the boy. He's always going to be a boy from New York, and always, I guess, as polished as he is, a little rough around the edges. But you know what? There were 16 people standing on that stage. All of them wanted to be president, and all of them had a following that said, we want you to be president. But when all was said and done, there was one man left standing. Not my first choice, but he was the one that America chose. And so now, some are saying it's the lesser of two evils. That's one way of looking at it. Others are saying that no matter who wins, they will be the most hated president in the history of America. Here's what I pray. I pray that even if that be the case going in, that by some act of grace from God, that the office will change the man or the woman, and that they will lead our country to greatness. Now, it was interesting the other day that Bill of Billary, you know, that guy who dresses left, so they say, I don't know. Anyway, he said that the phrase, "Make America Great Again," he said it was a racial slur. He said it was all kinds of things. I think he said he stopped just short of saying that it was some kind of a magical incantation or something. But have you seen the news clips? That guy has said, "Let's make America great again" more times in his public career, I think, than Donald has ever said it. Maybe not. Donald says it every chance he gets. But Bill needs to be careful about calling the kettle black. So, anyway, that's it for me for right now. I got more, but we're going to wait. Michael is standing in the wings. The camera crew is ready to shine the light on his screens. He's going to walk us through everything that happened in the live trading room today. As always, he did an outstanding job of not only getting his points, but I don't want to, spoiler alert, but he also did an excellent job, as always, of answering questions and making sure that all those in attendance, all of those who are brand new, all of those who look at our charts, and because maybe there's some different colors and some different names, it all seems a little bit confusing. But Michael has his own unique way of helping folks understand that, in fact, when the clouds part and the dust settles, it really is, as far as I can tell, the simplest trading methodology out there, bar none. There's 5 steps, and he repeats those steps over and over and over, day after day after day. He's been doing that now for quite a number of years. It dawned on us 3.5 years ago to start actually recording what happened in the live trading room every day. So he'll tell you how you can download a spreadsheet that will walk you through everything we've done in front of a live audience for the last 3.5 years. And unless you're doing something right, you don't stick around for 3.5 years. And we are now in our 2nd decade. So with all that said, and hopefully he's blushing by now, Michael,
Blushing, yeah.
Take it away.
That's what I am.
Take it away,
right,
buddy.
Here we go. Wayne is waiting in the wings here as well, just so you know. He's
okay. Well, I've sent him a link so that he's able to log in, and yeah, he knows that he'll be on top of the hour. So you've got a good 18 minutes to do whatever you need to get done. But thanks for giving me the heads up on that.
okay. All right. I just noticed his name was there.
Yeah, that's
right.
perfect.
Here we go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 14th day of September, 2016. Today in the live trading room, we made 10 ticks profit on the YM, 14 ticks profit on crude, and 6 ticks profit on gold. That is a total of $250 a contract in the live trading room this morning. Today it took us 75 minutes and 8 trades to get to $160, and we took a total of 12 trades today. Okay, on the month now we're up $1,248 a contract. That's over 9 trading days, averaging $138 a day. If you were to apply an $8 commission to every trade we've taken, you'd have a net profit of $232. If you had a $5 commission, your net profit would be $613. Okay. On the year now, we're at $42,093. That's over 173 trading days, and we're averaging $243 per day. Okay. Now, if you have not taken our free trial, just go to the homepage of CFRN.net, and in the right-hand column where it says register for a free trial, put in your name, put in your email, click on register for a free trial. When you do that, you'll be sent the confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link. Jeanette, I'll respond to that in a minute. I'll type in a text for me, something for you. Okay. Maybe it wasn't you. Sorry. It wasn't you. It wasn't you. It wasn't you. It wasn't you. I am sorry. I didn't mean to type that to you. Okay. Yeah, you are correct. All right. So that is how you take the free trial. All right. Once you click register for a free trial, you're going to be sent a confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link. All right. Now let's get into the trades. On the YM, we actually traded the YM this morning. We took a couple trades. Yeah, I have 2 trades for the YM. We took this one right here where we got 10 ticks profit, and this one over here where we had a break even. There were more trades in here on the YM, but I did not mark them all. Let's see, during the break, what did the YM do? The YM just bounces around quite a bit. So it had a nice move up here, and another one right there. Those were trades for the live trading. I mean, not for the live trading, but during the break. A short from right there as well. Okay, that was the YM this morning. Gold. Let's see, what did we have on gold? We had a few trades on gold. All right, our first trade here on gold, we made 2 ticks profit. And we had a break even right there. We took 4 ticks profit here, putting us at +6, and that was where we ended with the gold. Okay, during the break, it doesn't look like it did much. Crude oil. Now we had crude inventories come out today. These were the levels that I had given for the crude inventories. These 2 lines right here, you can see. But at 10:30, the crude just bounced all over the place when the inventories came out. They were anticipating, they actually built into the price from the API numbers that came out yesterday. The API numbers came out yesterday with a small build. The crude actually came out with a small draw, but it was after a 14.5 million barrel draw last week, which was the biggest in years. Anyway, what we did with crude today, we started out right here, and our first trade on crude, we made 3 ticks profit. Then we stopped out, and at that point we're at -5. Then we didn't do anything until after the inventories. Once the inventories finished, I pointed out a couple of trades here that I missed because it was jumping around too fast. But we did get into this one. We took 14 ticks profit on that one, putting us at +9. And a break even there, and 5 ticks profit there, putting us at +14. That was where we ended with crude today. Okay. And it still has not gotten down to the level that we had given in the daily double. Okay. The ES, did I skip the ES? Did I do the ES? No, I skipped it. Alright, I had shown a bunch of trades this morning on the ES. I don't have an ES DOM open, so I don't actually trade it, but there was a long trade right there that would have been a break even. Short trade here that probably would have been a break even. Long trade here should have been some profit on. Long trade here that would have overlapped with that one right there probably. Short trade there and there and there. Those all would have given some profit. And a long right here that, let's see, 27.75 pulled back to 26. So it would have been a break even right in there. We really had a lot of movement today on the ES. We really did. There was another long opportunity there that I missed. And then during the break, it got a little choppy. Yeah, there was a shorting opportunity right here, currently, on the ES. Okay, in the soybeans, we had just the one trade right here, and it was break even, but look at the mess these beans are right now. Just a mess. The euro, what did we have there? We had just one trade there. It was right here, a break-even trade this morning. Okay, so we missed a trade there, and okay. Yeah, when I go back over the spreadsheet, I'll do that, Dwayne. And here, and here, and that is that. Okay. So let's get back to here. All right, if you have not taken a free trial with us, then just go here to the home page at CFRN.net, and in the right-hand column where it says register for a free trial, put in your name, put in your email, click on register for a free trial. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link. Okay. All right. So again, the results we made. We did this all with one contract. Okay. We only use one contract in the live trading room. Well, occasionally I'll do more than one, but I only count it as one for the live trading room results. You know, on the YM today, for instance, I traded 10 contracts, but we made 10 ticks. Okay. It wasn't just one tick with 10 contracts. So we made 10 ticks on the YM, we made 14 ticks on crude, we made 6 ticks on gold. That put us up $250 a contract. Okay. It took us 75 minutes and 8 trades to get to our goal for the day at $160 a contract. And we took a total of 12 trades today. Our gross monthly profit so far this month is $1,248. That's over 9 trading days, averaging $138 a day. Our yearly total so far, $42,093. That's over 173 trading days, averaging $243 a day. Again, that is with one contract. If you were to bump a contract a month and execute every trade exactly as I did and get a complete fill on both ends of every trade, all of which you know is highly unlikely, then you would be here, okay? You would be at 9 contracts, and that would be your profit, okay? All right. And
Okay, were you
that is
calling
that. Yeah, with that, I'm going to shut off the recording, and we can head back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona. There, I got it done as fast as I could. I know Wayne's there, and
Yeah, well, that's what, if you have anything else you want to cover, because he's prepared to come on at top of the hour. He's probably just logged in. I don't even know that he's at his desk at the moment. But so, is there anything else that you would like to add or talk about?
No, that's it for now. There is one thing I can bring up.
Okay.
The daily double's been really kicking it the last week. Just wanted to point that out for all you guys who signed up but then canceled. You know, I know there's a bunch of you out there because in the beginning we got off to a little bit of a rocky start and we had some technical issues right in the beginning. It's starting to hit its stride here. Okay, just wanted to point that out. All right.
Okay.
And Jeanette, you are absolutely right. That was not intended for you. As a matter of fact, I am going to send an email to the person it was intended for.
If you want to go ahead and push me the charts.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That way you can get something to eat.
I actually ate, you know.
Yeah, you're a grown boy. Guys, you see, important prices, important areas, almost always tested. We're 8 minutes away from Wayne Jett, author of The Fruits of Graft. So what we're going to do, I'm not going to start the Concierge Trade Alert recaps right now. We've already covered the S&P. But I'm going to save the rest of them till we've finished talking with Wayne. What I am going to do, and I think we have just enough time to work this in, if I haven't lost my spot. We've been talking for the last couple of days during our Good Word for the Day part of the program. When does trouble show up? Well, typically when you least expect it. When you're all kicked back and casual. But today, we finished that little mini-series. Today I want to talk to you about something that I bring up a lot. Okay? Most preachers preach from their own lives. The good ones anyway. Spend more time with your family. There's probably a day, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't touch on that. But then on Fridays, because you have 2 whole days where many people don't have to work. But you know, many people do have to work Saturday and Sunday. And that was my teaching moment this weekend for the kids. I said, guys, everywhere we go this weekend, as you interact with the store clerk or any of the employees in the store, I want you to think about the blessing that we have, that we're able to spend time together all day Saturday, Saturday night, all day Sunday, Sunday night. I know Dad works on Sunday afternoons, but that's another story. But I'm home every night. You know, I don't have to work the night shift or the graveyard shift, and you guys don't even know what that is, because you've always lived with a dad that was always around. Most kids don't have that, and it's a true blessing. And so I want you to have some empathy for the people that we encounter as we go to the stores, whether we're in a restaurant or the grocery store or wherever we may find ourselves, hardware store. That person would probably rather be home with their family than standing on their feet, maybe pulling, you know, a double shift or something. And when they do get home, you know how mom always has a mountain of laundry to do, and they go, yeah. I go, well, this lady behind the counter right here, she looks to be of childbearing age. She's probably got some little ankle biters at home. And so when she gets off work here, she will probably have to go home and clock in and do all the stuff that you see mom do around our house. Picking up after you guys, cleaning up after you guys, doing your laundry, making sure you got your outfits all ready for the week. And I could tell that they'd never actually given any thought to all that, because our world is the only world they know. And as a father, it's important that I begin to help them understand, you know, just how blessed we are. Not only as Americans, but also as people who have so much opportunity. I mean, in just since this school year started, my son's been put in the honors program. They've changed him to a new group with his saxophone. My daughter continues in the accelerated learning program. I mean, they are running on all 8 cylinders, and I couldn't be more proud. And I would have never imagined that God would call on me as a man of a certain age to be a father to what is now a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old. But here I am, dancing as fast as I can, trying to figure out how to do the best job I can. Job 29:5 says, when the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were around me. Remember, Job lost his entire family. There's a true saying, the family that prays together stays together. Here's another saying, the family that eats together and communicates raises well-adjusted children. Every night at the dinner table, we join hands, we give thanks for our food, and that's a bonding moment for our family. And we go around the table and we talk about our day. Hey, how was your day? Gabe tells me in ROTC how much weight he had to lift and how far he had to run and how many steps he had to climb. And Emily tells me what happened in her classes. And my wife tells me what happened in her day. And sometimes my kids will say, that name that you prayed for, what's the story there, Dad? And I share with them. Usually it's somebody that I was in a mentoring session with who is experiencing some kind of family crisis, financial crisis, emotional crisis, spiritual crisis. So my mentoring sessions are about 50% of the time counseling sessions more than they are about teaching someone how to trade. And so that's a God thing, okay? He created this. I could have never imagined it, and I've got a very vivid imagination. I can imagine some stuff, but this is a God thing. Now, this is all about spending more time with your family. When the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center studied 500 teenagers, here's what they discovered. Children whose parents ate dinner with them 5 times a week or more were the least likely to be on drugs, to be depressed, or to be in trouble with the law. They were also more likely to do well in school and be surrounded by a supportive circle of friends. Even when families met together at a fast food restaurant, they got the same results. By contrast, the more poorly adjusted teens ate with their parents only 3 times a week or less. What do these findings mean? Number one, you need to make time to be involved with your children on a daily basis, especially during the formative years. 2, when you give your children things, you give them short-term pleasure and excitement. But when you give them time, you give them self-worth. This may call for working fewer hours or eliminating certain activities that you enjoy, but it's an investment you'll never, ever regret. Now, Job was one of the wealthiest men in his generation, but after tragedy struck, and all 10 of his children died in a single day. Can you imagine? Now, I lost my entire family inside of 6 months. My mom, my dad, and my younger brother. And that was almost more than I could bear. But to lose a child is even more difficult. And to lose 10 in one day, I can't begin to imagine. But after tragedy struck and all 10 of his children died, he looked back and wrote, "The Almighty was yet with me when my children were around me." Friends, you need to ask yourself, am I spending enough time with my family? Now, because of the nature of our audience, because of the demographics of our audience, maybe your son or daughter is 35, okay? Maybe they're even raising children of their own. Don't think for a moment that they don't still need you just as much at 39 as they did at 9. Because you represent to them what a loving father and a loving mother is all about. They look to you for leadership. They look to you for example, for ideas, for suggestions. Don't worry about them saying, "Don't tell me how to raise my kids." Now, you might have a belligerent child that says that from time to time, but if you've raised them right, they're going to come back, they're going to apologize, and they're going to say, "Dad, I was out of line. You were just trying to help me." I want my kids to grow up to be like you. Are your kids ever going to say that about you? Ask yourself that question. And you know what? If you weren't there for them when they were 9, dear God, please be there for them at 39. Because they need you. They may have gone off to college and got a fancy degree and you only went to high school. But you've got age, you've got wisdom, you've got insight. You can help them stay the course. Job said, the Almighty was yet with me when my children were around me. You need to ask yourself, am I spending enough time with my family? And guess what? If you don't like the answer, change it. Isn't that wonderful? If you don't like the answer, just change it. It's that simple. And that is our good word for the day. Now, Wayne Jett has patiently waited a little past his start time, and I thank you for that, Wayne. But I am going to open up your mic here, and we're going to see how things go. And on the off chance, oh, that's right, I gave you a live mic link. I sure did. Thank you so much. How are you today? Are you doing okay? Wayne, I somehow lost you. Okay, now you're not muted from my end, so I don't know what kind of a mic setup you've got or headset, but we had to. I hear you perfect. You sound like a rock star. Seriously, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay? Well, I'll tell you, these electronic goods, they are so, when they work like magic. But when they don't work, boy, they just don't work. So what I'm going to ask you to do, Wayne, is if you can hear my voice, go ahead and call that number. The one that you used to call, and I know you and I were supposed to get together and work out your headset issues, and I apologize. I fell down on that job. I was busy spending time with my family. Oh, how I wish that were true. Wayne, if you'll call this number, they will patch you through to the show. They'll be happy to do it, okay? Call 866-92. I don't know what happened because you were just loud and clear as a bell there for a minute. Now it's showing me that you're muted from your end. Okay, it looks like you're unmuted. Wayne, try it.
Hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah.
What's the number again you want me to call?
Well, I can hear you so good now. I don't know if we need you to call the number. Did you do something?
I would love to stay on this way if we can
yeah.
make it work.
Did you change anything or do anything different?
No, I really didn't. I couldn't be heard by you.
Okay.
And I clicked my microphone icon.
Okay.
And it.
And there you go again. I lost you again. Well, gosh. Now I see that you...
Okay, now I can see you again.
Okay, and you know what? As soon as you started to talk, I saw something on your end is muting you. Sometimes, some microphones, you have to hold the key down while you talk. Is that the type that you have? Do you know? Is there any buttons involved of any kind? Or... Okay. Tell you what. I promise you, this weekend we'll get this bug worked out. But in the address bar, if you'll call 866-928-3310, Bert and Leslie will be happy to patch you through to the show. Okay? Now you can still stay where you can see the screens, and I'm sorry to do this to you. I was supposed to do sound checks with you prior to the show, but at least you're here, and for that I'm thankful. So if you'll dial this number, 866-928-3310, they will patch you through. In fact, let me send Bert a message. You patch Wayne through, please. Okay, they're standing by to patch you in. In the meantime, guys, we'll go ahead, and it's going to take a minute for him to get dialed in. He sounded great, too. That's what's such a shame. He absolutely sounded fantastic. Okay, he'll be here in just a second. So I was going to jump off into the Dow, but I'm going to stay with Classical Capital. He's already called. And I'm ready for Wayne, guys, whenever you want to patch him in. This is the book I spoke so highly of at the beginning of the show. This is 6 years, over 6 years of a man's life, over 500 pages of not conspiracy theories, not name calling, but name naming. There's a lot of investigative research. And not only do I want you to read the book, but once you've read the book, I want you to tell your neighbor to read the book, because there's information in here that the world needs to know. Now, we just got a notice. You back with me? Okay, good. Guys, you should have just got a notice on your trading platform. The last trading day for September currencies and the U.S. dollar index is Monday, September 19th. Due to the all positions in the September currencies and U.S. dollar index must be offset by the close of markets Friday, this Friday, September 18th. Okay? So if you have any questions, call the trade desk. The number's on the screen. And that's that. Well, Wayne, I am so sorry that I did not follow through and do a proper sound check with you over the weekend. God willing, I'll get it done this weekend, and because you're really sounding good.
I want to remind you, if I might, Dwayne, that I'm going to be away from my home post.
That's right.
Traveling.
That's right.
Starting before the weekend, and I won't be able to join you next Wednesday.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm pretty sure you already have it, but I'm going to email you my direct phone line, and once you get back from your trip, a day or two before you're scheduled to come on, give me a call, and you and I will do a dry run together to make sure that we figure out whatever little bug there was, because, I mean, when we could hear you just perfect. So we're going to get that thing fixed.
Something about the mic on and off muting mechanism is not what we want.
In the GoToWebinar settings, there are a couple of buttons that when we do our dry run, I will show you. There's like a built-in equalizer that you can turn on or off, and we'll play with that until we find the perfect right setting for you, okay?
All right, great.
Okay, great.
Well, I am glad to be joining your show again this morning. The information you sent me about your co-host, Dane Wigington, for Monday certainly looks very interesting, and I want to be able to listen to that. And there are plenty of things going on now, for certain, for us to discuss. I wonder what you in particular have in mind that you'd like to discuss today.
Well, I'm open. One thing that I think is on everyone's mind, of course, the presidential election, and it's going to get here before Christmas, folks. For Christmas, we're all going to know who the next president's going to be for the next 4 years. While I believe that one should be in shackles versus the Oval Office, that's not my call to make. I am concerned for her health.
Let me raise a question about what your premise was just now.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, I learned yesterday the prospect that maybe it's not so certain at all that we will know by the end of December or November.
Oh boy! Now
let me tell you the scenario that that I learned about yesterday. It was a report, and I haven't been able to validate it, but it appears to me to be a well-based report that says that there are rules already set up for what happens in the case of a debilitated candidate or a candidate unable to go forward either before or after the election in order to serve as president. It appears that the two major parties, have already adopted rules that they apparently agreed with each other as to how that is to be done and what is to occur. And I think a disturbing aspect of it that jumps right out at me is that the report is that these rules say that if one such candidate is unable to proceed, then the election is to be postponed and the current president is to continue in office until an election is rescheduled at a time that is, I assume, acceptable to both candidates or both parties. Now, such a rule, it seems in my mind, or such an approach to the problem could only have been written by the two establishment parties, that is, controlled by the same establishment that wants to be able to act in a situation such as this and contrive to present one candidate as debilitated and therefore an excuse to postpone the election. It seems to me that the party with this problem, yes, it's possible to have an unforeseeable problem, but of this nature. But if it's completely foreseeable, which is even known to be the case in advance, then to put the Constitution and the rights of the people to vote for a new president into abeyance because of what one party did, or perhaps both parties knowing about it, but one party nominated a person known to be debilitated before the nomination. Not just debilitated by health, but debilitated by what almost certainly, in my mind, would be criminal activities.
Now, here's what I did. I just Googled rules in place of a debilitated presidential candidate. Now, the first return I got back was written on August 3rd of this year. And here's, it took me to a website I've never heard of called Ballotpedia, the Encyclopedia of American Politics. On August 3rd, 2016, Jonathan Karl of ABC News reported that Republican officials were actively exploring the steps they would need to take if Donald Trump dropped out of the 2016 presidential race. Republican officials are exploring how to handle a scenario that would be unthinkable in a normal election year. The report came as Trump fell in national polls and generated attention with remarks about Khizr Khan, a speaker at the Democratic National Convention, who sharply criticized Trump and whose son died in Iraq while serving as a captain in the U.S. Army. Now, some have raised the possibility of the 2016 Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton leaving the race, citing concerns over her health. On September 11th, 2016, Clinton had to leave a 9/11 memorial event in New York due to a health issue. Her campaign told reporters that she was feeling overheated. The following day, Don Fowler, who served as chair for the Democratic National Committee from 1995 to 1997, called for party leaders to formulate a plan for nominating a successor candidate in the event that Clinton dropped out of the race. Presidential candidates dropping out of a race between their formal nomination at a national convention and the general election is a rare occurrence. The last time it happened was in 1972 when the Democratic vice presidential nominee Thomas Eagleston dropped out, leaving Democrats to scramble to find a replacement before the November elections. Below, Ballotpedia outlines the internal mechanisms for both the Republicans and Democratic parties for dealing with this type of situation, as well as the ballot access obstacles replacement candidates would face. So what are you, without me getting it, I mean, this is very lengthy, and I will put the link in the show notes tonight. But what are your thoughts on this?
Well, my thoughts basically are that it's extremely difficult. It's hard to believe anything that is coming through the major media.
Right.
In terms of what the actual conditions on the ground are regarding Hillary Clinton. I don't know whether the person we saw being loaded into a dark vehicle at the edge of the 9/11 memorial service or commemoration service was Hillary Clinton or not.
Oh, wait, whoa. You're suggesting that the person at the 9/11 memorial event might not have been Hillary Clinton, and what would lead you to think that?
Well, I saw televised showings that appeared to be Hillary Clinton. He was feeling fine and conversing with others at that memorial service. They were also showing Donald Trump and others there. But the person that, according to videos that I saw, never showed the face of the person being loaded into the van. And so I can't identify her as that person or not. And it certainly is possible. We've had it happen many times in the past, unfortunately, that what is provided to us by the major media is something made for television and doesn't reflect the truth at all in terms of what's really going down. Maybe it was Hillary, person coming out of Chelsea's apartment. Certainly didn't appear to me to be a person who had just a couple of hours earlier, had a traumatic health experience. So I just am keeping my mind open in terms of what the truth may be in that regard, and what the actual physical condition of Hillary may be. This is a situation in which that candidate is, by some reports, leading in the polls. By other reports, is trailing by large double digits. And so in that circumstance, she might also be facing the very real prospect of criminal indictments after the campaign is over.
Mm-hmm.
In that circumstance, she might want to disappear and make use of the quite large sums of money that have been, we'll say, put aside for her use by various means over a period of many years, not just after they left the White House. So I think we just have to, I'm trying to keep my mind open in terms of what our circumstances really are. But if we just look at these reports, which indicate that the DNC has actually been meeting this week, trying to decide who is going to take Hillary's place, it may very well be that she will not be the nominee, and they may invoke this thing of trying to postpone the election. In my mind, what should happen, what ought to happen, is that if they have to do a replacement candidate, it's their responsibility to provide one that gives the people their choice as a possibility, and we don't have to take care of their mistake. And having chosen the one that they did already, we ought to be able to we ought to be permitted to vote on the date set regularly, and not put off at some future date, also at the whim of the establishment that has lied to us so many times about so many things. It certainly comes to mind that one of those things is what really happened, who was involved in doing the events of September 11th, 2001. I noticed that the candidate for the Green Party, Jill Stein, has this past week called for a reopening of the investigation of 9/11 and who was involved as the conspiring parties, other than what we've been told, the so-called 18 or so hijackers.
Yeah, that's I guess what they're still called. Yeah, terrorists.
It's amazing at this point to hear the mainstream media and the government and so-called anybody responsible continuing to parrot the phrases that were the official story of that day, when people all over the world who are highly professional, very well qualified in such things as the construction of office buildings, say that the official story cannot possibly be the truth. And so in that circumstance, here we are, more and more recognized around the world as a pariah country, one who cannot be believed, one who conjures things and tells stories in ways that justify the actions taken in response, when if the truth were known, our justifiable actions would be very, very much different. And so we have our situation now of having to wonder whether all our cherished constitutional rights to elect a representative government, and particularly to elect a president, head of the executive branch, will be honored, or will they not be? Certainly they have been violently abused in the past with repeated assassinations. It certainly has been abused with the control of the choice of the candidates we have for which to vote. Practically every election I can remember. And the great exception this year is that one of those candidates had enough money on his own to beat their primary process of making sure that only their candidate could get the nomination. And now that somebody else has defeated that, they want to make sure that somehow he's taken down or taken out of the chance of getting into the position of authority that election as president would give him. So let me hesitate a moment and let you say anything you'd like. I don't mean to dominate what we're...
No. The audience gets to hear me prattle on the entire week, except for, each day. Most days I have a guest who's on for anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. So it's really your thoughts and your insight that you bring to the program. I mean, number one, when I saw her stumble, when, the whole story unfolded about her being taken to the daughter's apartment and not the emergency room, that seems suspicious enough. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, it's just pneumonia, not a big deal. And I've listened to a number of medical authorities talk about the situation, not just on Fox News, but also on CNN and quote-unquote mainstream media, if there is such a thing. And can I ask, was this something you heard, or was this a thought that just popped into your head that might not have even been her at the event on Sunday?
Well, the thoughts basically occurred to me based on a number of other inputs of information. I'm certainly not the first to suggest that, for example, the Hillary who came out of the apartment feeling fine later on and hugging the little girl and so forth, the one that supposedly has pneumonia, but she's looking fully within her ability to walk and so forth and so on. Others have said that the body of that person is very much different from the body of the person that was going into the van. And as I say, the person going into the van, I never saw her face. I only saw the back of the head. And whether it was or was not Hillary, for example, I saw Hillary's face earlier in the crowd, according to the TV cameras.
Right.
And where she went from there, and whether that was the same person who was assisted into that dark vehicle, I have no idea. We can only trust the press for that, and frankly, I don't. Matters of that kind have been deliberately misrepresented in the past, and it may have been this time. I don't know. I'm just keeping the question open. But if they change the person from the one who went into the van to a different person walking out and saying hello to everybody and how she feels fine right now, 2 or 3 hours later, they might have changed persons between the one who was standing in the plaza there at Ground Zero and conversing with others. Was that the same person who went into the van? I don't know. We never saw how she got there, and it was quite a long distance to walk, especially for somebody not feeling well.
Mm-hmm.
So in any event, we'll see how it turns out, and it may take a while before the truth comes out. But
so would this be? So if that's the case, would this be an example of her handler simply picking a bad body double? Now, her remarks were that she got overheated, but the weatherman says that it was a rather cool and balmy afternoon.
Well, it was 79 degrees reported, and I think that was probably the high for the day. They said it had been terrible weather, very hot weather previously in previous days, But 9/11 turned out to be a crystal clear morning, beautifully cool and clear and so forth, and everyone thought a magnificent day. But I think that really is the part. There are other serious questions. This is the first instance in which I've heard anyone use the expression, "Oh, it's only pneumonia." Ordinarily, pneumonia, I think, is a serious problem.
Especially for someone of that age. Yeah, absolutely.
A lung condition. And of course, there have been doctors' reports, one from Loma Linda out in California, a retired physician, expert in that field, who said that he's observed her for a period of time. He's expert in the field of Parkinson's disease, who says that he's convinced that that scenario or that prognosis is much more consistent, including even pneumonia, with Parkinson's than with any other description that the campaign of Hillary Clinton has put out about her.
Well, I've heard allegations of MS as well. Multiple sclerosis, that it's possible that she suffers from that condition.
Well, the question is, with all of those circumstances in play, what happens with the DNC and what they want to do about this election? Believe it or not, one of the close observers, who previously was a Trump advisor and certainly is a Trump supporter, Roger Stone, was interviewed yesterday. A man appears to have quite a lot of political experience and also connections with what's going on. And he said that his reports of the DNC's deliberations is that they have been in deep collaboration this week, and that they intend to replace Hillary on the ticket. And interestingly enough, that his information is that almost certainly their choice to replace her will not be Biden, will not be Kaine, but will be Michelle Obama.
Oh my goodness.
He says, Roger Stone said yesterday that the reason for that choice is that Hillary's campaign is comprised, and I think the DNC is apparently comprised of, they rely very largely for support on the gay and lesbian and feminist community. The feminist community, I think I ought to say that, as opposed to gay lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
That as a result, the feminist support for Hillary will not accept the possibility of a non-female as the candidate. And therefore, that is the reason for doing that. So we'll see.
Now, you're certainly not alone. You're certainly not alone in these thoughts. In fact, as I've done a little bit of internet searching here, especially out of the UK, the internet has been awash. An ad just kicked in. Sorry about that, folks. You can't hear it live, but when the podcast plays later today, if you listen to it in the future, you'll hear that. So whenever it happens, that's just the nature of the internet. I am supposedly the newest version of Chrome allows you to turn off all advertisements. So I'm going to figure out how to do that. But the internet has been awash with evidence that the Democrats' presidential nominee was not herself after reemerging following her September 11 collapse. After Hillary Clinton collapsed at the 9/11 memorial event this weekend, the internet has been awash with rumors, and with her health being a subject of fevered speculation for months, the Democrats' presidential nominee is now being targeted by excited conspiracy theorists. Ever since the incident, internet users have claimed that Clinton has a body double, pointing to photographs taken on September 11th, both before she was taken ill at the memorial in New York State and later on that day. Internet users claim an inspection of the images showed differences in a number of details, including Clinton's cheekbones, smooth versus wrinkled skin, and body composition. But have we just found out who her double might be? Now there's some pictures. Let me show you the pictures. No reason not to. Let me drag this thing over here and we'll take a look through them together. Hillary Clinton faint explained by ex-Secret Service man who claims it's much worse than she admits. Hillary Clinton appeared frail as she left the 9/11 memorial. The 68-year-old appeared much healthier later in the day. Now we're showing larger cheekbones, smoother neck, smaller stomach, coat fits tighter. Oh boy. Then there's tweets and there's more pictures. This will all be in the show notes tonight. Look at this picture. It's not Hillary. She was replaced. I gotta admit, that doesn't look like her to me. Does that look like Hillary Clinton to you?
Dwayne, let me do this, if you might, if you will.
Uh-huh.
I know I've stirred pot on this, but I frankly think that we don't have enough information to know what is going on there. I just wanted to raise the point that you raised
Fair enough,
earlier,
because I tell you, I had not heard about this.
As to whether we are actually going to get to vote in early November. I certainly hope that is the case.
Well, what about Jade Helm? What about the whole martial law conspiracy theory, if you will? I mean, did you ever put any stock in that at all?
I don't have enough evidence to know whether there is...
I love that answer. I don't have enough evidence. See, that's when I tell you about the book, The Fruits of Graft. You got to read the book because there's evidence in the book. This isn't a guy that just throws something on the wall and hopes it sticks. He does the research, and he's not going to, make a statement here that he can't back up with evidence. And I respect that so much.
Well, let me on that basis move to a different aspect of what we're facing these days. Believe it or not, the choice of president is by no means the only daunting challenge that we have as a country and as a people. We have tremendous economic problems that are already created, and in many respects may well be beyond the ability of the presidential choice to affect very much. But let's just look at the circumstances that I think are reported by credible sources, and I think these are people who do have carefully gleaned evidence, some frankly from intelligence sources that I don't have, but I regard these people as careful enough that I give some weight to what they report.
Right.
This is I heard an important interview given by Dr. Jim Willey. That's the man.
The Golden Jackass?
Yes, the Golden Jackass.
Okay.
Is what he calls himself.
That rascal won't return my emails. I'm going to go knock on his door. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, he reported several significant things this past week, and one of them is that the United States Treasury has already defaulted on its the national debt. That he understands, I believe he said that it was March of 2016 that the default. I'm not certain that it might have been March of 2015, but in March of 2016, let me get to the point of the default first.
Okay.
You said that that occurred about the same time that the Chinese took possession of the building in which J.P. Morgan Chase is housed, and at that time also took possession of all the facilities there, which include the largest
the warehouse
in the world.
Yeah. And you know what? I think my friend who's been accumulating physical silver, I think he now has more silver than J.P. Morgan Chase.
Well, I hope he has it in a safe place.
He does.
In any event,
He does.
let's go to the second point
Okay.
that he did, and that is, I know he said that it was in March of 2016 that the Chinese government came to the United States or met with us, whether here or there, and told the U.S. government that, I guess you could say the Obama administration,
We want to get
told the
paid.
U.S. government that that China is prepared and is ready to go in announcing a new currency for the world, gold-backed.
Yeah, Dana and I talked about this on Monday. We sure did. And you and I have talked about it, I believe, in the past. Go ahead, please.
Most people would not understand
The ramifications of such a thing.
currency and why it is so important for economic growth and stability. Stability and growth, I think both are highly dependent upon a currency, not that is very expensive just because it is related to gold. It depends upon a currency whose value does not change. It depends upon currency with stable value that cannot be manipulated by those who control the currency, as the U.S. dollar certainly is. Now, in that circumstance, here is the punchline for this point of the report. It was not so much that they were ready to go in announcing a gold-backed currency. That is a very significant event. Even more significant, however, was the response reported by Jim Willey of the U.S. government, which responded to China by saying, if you do that, we will regard it as an act of war, and we will be in a state of all-out war with China.
Wow.
He then reported that China responded by saying, okay, we will not roll out the new currency at this time. We will simply allow the status quo to go forward until your dollar collapses. And that dollar collapse, in my estimation, I've said numerous times before in our conversations, I believe it has been so far advanced in terms of a consistent program of destroying the dollar. There's more than one reason why the people who have the dollar would destroy it. It does more than one thing. It collapses our economy, at least for a time, until we can somehow control government enough to go to an honest currency. In the meantime, however, another thing that destruction of the dollar accomplishes is it actually loots, it steals a very large part of the capital value created by our entire people. All the people using the dollar essentially lose the value of all they've worked for, and it doesn't just disappear into the air. That value in large part goes into the account of those who are stealing and destroying the currency, because they've been able to use the currency during all of these months in which they keep telling us that, of course, the dollar is as valuable. Look how it's increasing in value compared to all others. And during that period of time, they are using all these trillions of dollars that they have printed for themselves. They've been using them to buy assets, to buy companies, to buy land, to buy gold mines, to buy silver mines, and so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. And they have those assets in their possession and ownership unless and until the people from which the capital has been stolen are in a position to act in such a way as to retrieve them or claw them back, as is sometimes said. But nevertheless, those reports by Jim Willie that we've had an actual formal default in our debt, that puts the debt holders in the position of being able to foreclose on assets. That may have been the reason they took control of J.P. Morgan Chase assets.
Now, is that something that you've been able to research? And I mean, has there been a transfer of title on that building? Have you been able to discern that or find that out?
I have not researched that, but I put high credibility in it because Jim Willie has reported it.
Okay. Now I'm looking at, I don't know, are you able to see my charts that I have up right now? I know we had some problems with the connection there, so I know we're talking by phone, but I don't know if you still have access to the charts. Anyway, I'm showing a continuation chart of the U.S. dollar. Currently, we're trading at 95 1/4. Now, this chart, because it is a continuation chart, I'm able to go back. Are you still there, Wayne?
I am.
Oh, okay. So the most recent significant low that I can show on this chart, because this platform will only pull back so much data. If I give it a few minutes, it might go back a bit further. I'm already back to November of 09, but it looks like, and this is a weekly chart, and so this would be the week of May 6th, 2011. The dollar put in a low at 73, well, we'll just call it 73. Now we've had a leg and a retrace and a leg and a retrace, and then this is an unbelievable climb right here. And we've been going sideways basically since March of last year, and we're sort of in the middle of this little, if I draw a line here, and then I copy and paste, I will have okay, so we've been in that little channel now since, again, actually January 30th of 2015. And using Fibonacci math, which I know is something that you may not be familiar with, and then again you may. You and I haven't talked a lot about the financial markets from this respect, technical analysis, but we have been pulling back to a 24% retracement repeatedly. Now, right here where this swing high comes in, This lines right up with a 50% retracement. Taking out that 50% retracement at 87 would be huge. Taking out the 62% retracement would be even more frightening. And taking out this low obviously leads us to the lows of 2011. Did Jim Willie give any numbers, or do you recall, as to what he considers a breakdown of the dollar? Did he quote a price, perhaps, that you recall? I'm going to type in Jim Willie and dollar decline. Going to see if I can bring up maybe, let's see, breaking gold and dollar collapse. Yeah, this is Jim Willie. And let's see when this was written. See if I can get a date. Let's see, September 13th, 2016. That would be yesterday. Top hedge fund manager Tom Conrad warns $100 billion in helicopter money coming. Now, that's a statement that you might be familiar with because Ben Bernanke, when he became the head of the Fed, he was made infamous for his statement, "I'm going to return prosperity to America if I have to fly over the country in a helicopter and throw out $100 bills." And that's exactly what he did well, he didn't literally fly in a helicopter, but he did throw out $100 bills. Unfortunately, he only threw them he told the banks, "You go stand over here because this is where I'm going to throw the money. And you go stand over here." Because the American people, all that phony money that they printed, American people didn't get their hands on it. Okay, once the bottom fell out of the housing market, a small businessman in America could not get a loan. I don't care if your credit score was 800, they could find a reason not to give you a loan because they were running scared, because they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Look at this mess we have with Wells Fargo right now. Trying to scroll down because I'm looking for the article. It could blow. Jim Willie issues bond market warning. Is this the one where he talks about the dollar?
I'll send you in regard to that particular interview. He gives a number of interviews.
Okay.
This particular one I thought was a significant one for recent times. It's fairly long, so I will call your attention to particular points in it, but I think you'll find it very informative.
Okay, good.
In any event, I think that what he says is that we're going to see dramatic events that the press, the financial press, and Treasury Department and the Fed can't talk themselves out of. There will be a time when they simply cannot falsify the gold and silver prices any longer by dumping, for example, $1.5 billion worth of silver on the markets just at the time that the new price fix is going to be made. They don't dump, I didn't say they dump actual silver on the market. They dump derivatives.
Oh my God. What the biggest, well, I've always considered the 30-year mortgage a scam, but these gold and silver ETFs are beyond, go ahead, I'm sorry. The whole thing makes my blood boil.
They sell contracts supposedly guaranteeing the purchaser of the right to buy a certain amount of silver.
Mm-hmm.
However, even though those contracts say on their face that they guarantee the price of silver, they don't, because they allow, under conditions that the other party is going to determine, they can say they're going to settle in cash rather than actual silver. And by using that paper in that way, believe it or not, the spot price for gold and the spot price for silver in the U.S. markets are set based on the paper prices, not on what you can actually buy the metal for or deliver the metal for.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, they're not going to be able to fool people any longer, especially, for example, if China were to do something such as, or anyone else, were to open a market in which they actually start buying and selling gold and silver, and they do so in dollars and other currencies, and it happens that their price for gold might be $5,000 an ounce.
Oh my God, look at this right here. Breaking, this was written, it's not exactly breaking today, August 24th of this year. China and BIS negotiating deal to settle global contracts in gold at $5,000 an ounce, the figure you just gave, written by our friend, your friend. He won't return my emails, Jim Willie. Now, let's see what else he's written on this page. I guess that's it. View articles by Jim Willie. Okay, I can do that. They're trapped. We're about to see T-bond managers running scared. That may be his most recent article, September 9th. September 6th, the bond market could blow. Jim Willie says, get ready. Guys, I'm going to have a ton of show notes for you tonight. And my friend who's been accumulating a lot of physical silver has got a big grin on his face. I mean, I don't know that that's going to necessarily, save his bacon, but I got to believe it's better than holding greenbacks. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me respond to that this way. Another thing in this same interview by Jim Willie that he revealed is that in the past month, 2 months, something of the sort, number of weeks, there have been 8 events which required emergency action to save a major Wall Street bank from collapse. Each of those events has required multi-billions to patch the wound. He says that the money to patch the wound has come from narco money. That's the only thing that has saved the 4 Wall Street banks involved from collapsing already. And that his sources say they just do not see the prospect that those banks can make it past January 1, if they can make it that far. And that any one of them falling will be significantly greater than the impact of the Lehman destruction, bankruptcy, whatever you want to call it. So these are the kinds of things that I think are at the front of concerns about where the country is, certainly what is going to be facing any president who comes into office. And it's not going to be easily solved. It's not going to be even giving the best of intentions to Mr. Trump. It's going to be a difficult thing to see, just a sunny road going back to making America great again. It's going to take some really difficult decision-making. Some of his proposals, I think, go a long way toward getting us in the right direction, but they have really not addressed the currency crisis that is on us, the financial crisis that is on us already. It's already been put in place. It's already there. And to be able to solve it, I think one of the best things that could be done is to get a good, stable currency in place It would not be the entire answer, but it would be the foundation upon which the U.S. could actually start building a good economic future again, while right now we're simply going deeper into the pit of this looting that is being done of the capital of the country, the vitality of our economy, by the stealing of the value of our currency. And that is what the Federal Reserve enables. I will be happy to give you the link to that particular interview, and I'll point out.
I would like that. I would like that very much, because I would like to share that with the audience. How familiar are you, to kind of shift gears for a moment? How familiar are you with what's going on in Mozambique right now?
I'm not familiar with I haven't heard anything recently about what's occurring in Mozambique.
Okay, there is a organization called Jubilee. Let me see if I can get this right. USA. Here we go. Okay. Now, this gentleman right here, he was on the radio program, it's been quite a few months ago, when the Pope paid his last visit to the United States. This organization, Jubilee, I'll give you a little idea who they are. Eric Lecomte, I interviewed him when the Pope was here. I'm interviewing this gentleman tomorrow. They contacted me, and I'll be talking with Andrew, and the organization, they work with countries that are facing debt crisis, such as what we're seeing in Puerto Rico. That was part of the reason for the Pope's visit here, to try to get Puerto Rico bailed out. And this gentleman, Eric Lecomte, he has the Pope's ear. The Pope speaks with him regarding these matters. Now, let's see just how, and to guys, to the entire audience, that will be our guest speaker tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Andrew Hausner, I believe, was his name. Mozambique. I probably slaughtered that, but Google will straighten it out for me. Mozambique financial crisis. Let's go to the news. Mozambique's new central bank chief is an IMF veteran who will take on its IMF debt problem. Mozambique's new central bank governor took office this week amid hopes that the former International Monetary Fund employee will help prepare the country's relationship with the financial institution and restore investor confidence. After the discovery of a hidden $1.4 billion debt earlier this year, how in the world do you hide $1.4 billion? But then again, how do you hide the actions of 5,300 employees at Wells Fargo who have now been fired from their actions, but yet it's rumored in banking circles that they were given their marching orders by none other than the CEO of Wells Fargo himself. So as this story unfolds and unravels, I had a previous co-host who is no longer with me, who used to love to brag about how Wells Fargo survived the mortgage-backed securities debacle, and they were too smart for that, and they were clean, and their hands were white, and all of this. And I kept saying, you know, not so quick. The other shoe's going to drop. And well, it dropped this week when they fired 5,300 employees for churning clients' accounts, opening accounts without the client's knowledge, moving money from one account to another, actually issuing credit cards in the client's or the banking customer's name. The CEO of Wells Fargo is famous for the statement, 8 is great. In other words, it was the marching order of every Wells Fargo employee to make sure that each customer utilized at least 8 different services that Wells Fargo offered. So, I'm throwing a lot at you at once here, but they hit $1.4 billion in debt earlier this year. Repairing Mozambique's fiscal reputation, however, will require more from the country's government than a key appointment. Rogério Zandamala was appointed central bank governor by the president Felipe Nyusi last month. He's a Mozambican who's worked for the IMF since 1988. Mozambique's debt share of GDP has reached distress levels. In April of this year, the IMF discovered that the Mozambican government had failed to disclose borrowing from Swiss multinational financial services firm Credit Suisse, which is teeter-tottering on bankruptcy, and the Russian VTB Bank. The IMF was tipped off by reports which were later confirmed by the finance minister. The debt amounted to 10.5% of Mozambique's GDP. On returning from Mozambique, the IMF outlined a dire picture of the country's economy. Factoring in the hidden debt, Mozambique's debt at the end of 2015 was now 86% of GDP, which public debt now expected to reach a high risk of distress. The nomination of a new governor familiar with the IMF combined with the new IMF team hopefully will be able to square this all away. Well, we're going to be talking to this gentleman that I just pointed out to you tomorrow, Andrew Hanauer. Sorry, I spoke his name wrong earlier. He'll be here 1 p.m. Eastern, and we'll get the inside scoop on this story, how this came to be, and at what level of government was this trickery enacted. So if you have a chance, Wayne, you might want to tune in and catch that tomorrow. And even from the audience, or if you want to join in the conversation, just feel free to dial in. Well, you've still got that doggone microphone problem. But from the audience, you can type into the chat box and ask questions that way. So since this is a topic you're not very familiar with, I understand. So I'm going to follow this dollar thing and the Jim Willie thing. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or add today?
Well, I might say the IMF history has been to create those kinds of debt problems and urgent crises that have to be solved by usually some consultant from Goldman Sachs or other, and usually some consultant from some Wall Street firm has been on the front end of putting those kind of debt things together in order to get the country entangled in debt that can't be repaid, and therefore its assets are up for grabs since they have to raise the money some way. One of the significant developments that China and Russia and the BRICS are working on is they have set up a couple of organizations that would be comparable to the IMF in that part of the world in creating this Euro-Asian trade zone that would assist the various countries in participating in that, and at least if the stories believed, it would be on a basis that allows them to do so more equitably so that there's not the graft and corruption that has been the landmark or the hallmark of the IMF and the control of this kind of development financing by the Western world. Now, the Western world That's not the same thing I would call as ordinary Americans. I'm talking about that as the Rockefeller, Rothschild, Bush Clinton type of development, in which you can see with the Clinton Foundation has been involved in a great deal of corruption, graft, whatever you want to call it, payoffs in order to get the kinds of deals done that that are highly profitable to the ones doing it, even though it puts the countries involved and the people involved in much greater debt. So thank you very much for having me.
A question for you real quick before you go from the audience. Richard, who has been with us for many years, and he's quite the deep thinker. His question to you, what are the ramifications of stock and futures trades for traders when and if the U.S. dollar collapses? Even if we were short the markets, would we somehow still lose because of the currency collapse?
Well, that's a very hard one to answer because you have to not only judge your own position in those kind of transactions as to how well you're going to do. In order to judge how well you're going to do is how well are your counterparties going to perform. If you have, if you're short the market, for example, you still need a market in which you're able to sell or buy.
Right.
And you have to be able to collect from someone else. In the shorting aspect of things, I'm not expert on that, but certainly you hope to have the money in your pocket at the front end, but you have to map out your own course in those kinds of things. You could expect that banks would be closed. There's certainly widespread you could say speculation, but it's just people trying to analyze what actions the government will take and what they will allow the banks to take. Supposedly they've taken actions already to allow the banks to treat your deposits as their own assets. And they don't have, I think, for example, when we go to the bank and ask for cash.
No, good luck. Good luck.
The attitude is that, you know, we can't, we won't give you that much cash.
No, they won't.
It's because it's if they're giving us their money.
Exactly. Low-level employees at the teller level. My friend who's been accumulating a large amount of physical silver, I accompanied him to the bank the other day, and he requested $8,000, and they laughed, and he said, well, if you'll check my balance, you'll see that there's certainly $8,000 there. And they said, well, we don't have that much money at this branch at this time. Now, this was a freestanding branch, not a little tiny branch inside of a grocery store type thing. This was a full-fledged bank.
Yes.
My friend said, well, let me ask you a question. How much money could you give me? And the answer was maybe $2,000. And then the low-level bank employee said, and may I ask why you need this cash? And my friend said, no, you may not. And so the teller said, oh, I see. And then my friend decided that you get, you know, how does the saying go? You get more something with honey than you do with vinegar. did an about face and became very friendly with the teller and explained some kind of story about some great purchase on Craigslist, but that the person wanted to be paid in cash, but that it was a local deal, and that, you know, they would be inspecting the merchandise prior to buying it, ensuring its authenticity. And so basically, this is what it comes down to. This very close friend of mine who does not lie and hates a liar was forced to lie to get his own money out of the bank. That's how people, if you aren't frightened, you know, I'm not a doom and gloom guy, you know that. I always try to find the good in everybody and everything. But I'm telling you, if you're sitting on a bunch of money in the bank right now, you better start figuring some way to get it out. I don't care if you got to go there every day and take out $1,000 a day, if that's all they got, until however many days pass that you've got your money. And so, of course, now you're confronted with the issue, well, okay, now I got all this cash sitting around. What am I supposed to do with it? Well, we've talked about a lot of different things here on this radio program that you can do with said cash, and I won't go into those again today because I know that our co-host is out of time and needs to go. But if you think we're pulling your leg, if you think this is some kind of conspiracy nonsense, I encourage you today, even if you don't need it, okay, even if you're going to turn right back around and deposit it tomorrow, go to your local branch and fill out a withdrawal slip for $5,000, present it at the window, and see what happens. I'm telling you, you cannot get your own money, not on your terms. Now, here's what they will tell you. If you want to actually close out your account, or if you actually want to withdraw all of your money from the account, we need 2 days notice, and we cannot do it at the branch level. You will have to go to the main branch located in a high-rise building in downtown Phoenix, and I'm sure you'll be taken into a room where there will be men in suits with little earpieces, or the room will be bugged. It's I don't know. How did we let ourselves get in this condition? We were brought up and trained, you know, work hard, save your money, put it in the bank for a rainy day. You know, just old country folk put it under their mattress. But the modern American, he puts it in the bank. So we were spoon-fed this propaganda our entire lives. Now we find that we can't, that which we worked so hard, labored so hard, paid our taxes on, we can't get it out of the bank. And I say we, I mean the collective we. So I challenge you to do it. And if there's any of you in the audience that have perhaps already tried that, and you know that what I'm saying is true, I would love to hear your reply. David says, I used to work for a bank, and that's exactly what happens. Well, David, let me ask you a question. What do they do with that information? When they ask you these questions about why do you want the money, what are you going to do with it, why can't you accept a cashier's check? Okay, it's now David, who used to work for a bank, says it's reported to the IRS. My understanding is that the quote-unquote red flag amount was 10 grand. Is that no longer the case? And how long has it been since you actually worked for a bank? If you don't mind sharing that. It's about 5 years since I worked there. Okay. And when you worked there, was 10,000 the red flag amount where you had to fill out the paperwork? Or has that been... Actually, my friend the other day went in to withdraw a smaller amount of money. And the bank teller called the manager over, and they both stood there and stared at the screen for an extremely long period of time. And my friend said, "I'm sorry, is there a problem with my account?" And they said, "No, there's no problem with your account. The issue is your pattern of behavior." Because my friend has been steadily going to the bank day after day after day, making withdrawal after withdrawal after withdrawal. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just trying to get their money out, money that they believed to be theirs. But as you so eloquently said, these bank employees treat it as if it's their own money. Not just the bank's money, but they act as if it's their money. David says, I think it was closer to 500 or 600. You're talking about $500 or $600? He said yes. Oh my. Are you in the U.S. or Canada? And do you or will you or would you consider disclosing the name of the financial institution where you worked? U.S. and this was Chase. There you go. Boy, it sure is funny how that Chase keeps popping up. All right, Wayne. I'm going to let you go.
And Chase was the bank that reported to its shareholders that 2008 was its best year in history.
Right. That's the year everyone's 401k got wiped out, right?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I'll look forward to being back with you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, stay in touch with me now. I'm going to make sure you've got my private email address and my private phone number, and you let me know when you'll be back, and we'll make it a point to get together and do a sound check and get your headset working properly before the next show, okay?
Thank you very much, Dwayne.
All right, guys. I want you all to go to classicalcapital.com. I want you to get a copy of the book, The Fruits of Graft. There is information in that book. 6 years of this man's life poured into over 500 pages of not name-calling, but name-naming. Not conspiracy theories, but factual evidence. You do yourself a great disservice if you do not read this book. So, again, my best to you, Wayne. If the trip you're taking is a vacation, I hope it's wonderful. I hope you get a great suntan and you have lots of little drinks with umbrellas and just have a great time, and we'll see you when you get back. All right, guys, let's get a move on because we got a lot of ground to cover, and we got to do it in about 45 minutes, okay? So we have already covered everything except this most recent sell-off in the S&P. So let me just extend the line a little bit, okay? And let me get you over to the page where I sent out last night, and I'm going to show you my my error correction. Okay, the first email I sent out was this one. Well, actually, there was an email before this that didn't have this paragraph. And so then I sent out another email that said, time correction, I was on the phone with a free trial subscriber trying to explain why the alerts had not gone out yet because I was on the phone. The correction time is below. The correct time is below 9:55 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we're going to call that 10 o'clock. You know I like to get them out by 9 p.m. Eastern, but life happens, phone calls happen, and my wife's, screaming, it's, why are you still working? And I'm trying to dodge bullets, put out fires, and get you the information that you need to make wise financial decisions in the markets on a daily basis. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it because this is the truth. So at 10 o'clock last night, I said, sell the S&P at 21.26. Buy it at 42 if you get the chance, or sell it at 26. The opportunity you were given was to sell it at 26, this little line right here, just below the 2015 high, okay? We all agree this line is 21.26. The first drop, 4 3/4 points. Second drop, 3 3/4 points. Third drop, 8.5 points. Fourth drop, 3 1/4 points. And then the final drop took us all the way down to 21.15. So 21.26 to 21.15, that's going to be 11 points available. 11 points available per contract. Okay? Now, the free trial costs you $1 to get this information. The quarterly rate's $1,500. Obviously, if the quarterly rate's $1,500 and you multiply that times 4, it's going to cost you $6,000 a year. However, if you choose the annual subscription, we knock $1,000 off the price. All you pay is $5,000. Now, if you're trading in that league, talk to your accountant, because I am not an accountant. I am not certified or authorized or legalized to dispense tax information. But the money that you spend for the privilege of becoming a Concierge Trade Alert client is a tax-deductible business expense. Okay? Now some say you got to make it before you can write it off. That's true. That's an absolute fact. Well, $4, $7, $15, $18, $29, and that's 29 points on one market in one day. So 29 times 50 equals $1,450. A quarterly subscription costs $1,495. But you get the alerts for a full week, plus our indicators, plus access to our live trading room, plus 45 minutes one-on-one with me for $1. Okay? If you go to emini.cfrn.net, you will be able to look we type it in emini.cfrn.net. Got it? Click. Turns into that gobbledygook. But it takes you where you want to go. Okay? Now, if you want to read about the Trade Alert service, here's a page that will do its best to explain what the service is all about and how it works. If you just want to go pay the man the dollar and get started receiving the alerts tonight. Now you get 5 consecutive trading days, so starting on a Wednesday does not create a problem for you. Okay? So I'm putting that link into the chat box for anyone who has an interest. Had you sent me the dollar yesterday, then you would have had the opportunity to, this is when the email went out, and so 1.5 hours after we triggered, and then a little more time went by, and we had our first move, and then our second, and then our third, and then our fourth, and then our fifth triggered at 1:30 Eastern this afternoon. So the beautiful thing about the Concierge Trade Alerts, important prices and important areas are almost always tested. So these trades will trigger again and again and again. Now, as you can see, proper placement of your stop would have given you opportunity to take advantage of every one of these trades. You get out wherever you get out based on how you trail your stop. Okay? Now, when this ran up, surprisingly so, it created a new swing high in the market. Now I want you to notice, look at the horizontal line of my cursor. Look at the high of that, what turned out to be a red candle. The high of the day was a red candle. Now, I don't really have time to go into all the ramifications of what that means, but another day, another time, I will. Look left. Okay? You see this consolidation here? And then this break? Okay? Now, I was looking for this break to take us to here. But you have two factions at work. You have the sellers who are driving it down. You have the buyers who are seeing this as a low-risk trade. That was proven here. When we hit the low right here at 21.12 in 30 minutes, we put in a high at 26.75. So let's do some math. If we take 26 and minus 13, so this is a 13-point rally in 30 minutes. So as price gets, okay, and then we run into resistance, last year's high, okay? Now, as price approaches this low, people who got caught off guard and missed this move, and even those who participated in this move, man, they're waiting. And they're what I call early buyers, okay? And so they drive price back up to this known area of resistance. And as price refuses to move higher, they slowly but surely take their profits, okay? And then the selling pressure does begin to take hold. And on this drop, we make it down. We don't even get to, you see, we've got this low, and then this low, and now this low. See, buyers are coming in earlier and earlier each time because they don't want to miss out. They don't want to get left behind. However, none of these rallies can stick. We rally and get slapped down. Rally gets slapped down. Rally gets slapped down. Rally gets slapped down. Pretty good. Okay? So, I hope that this demonstrates to you what it means when I say important prices, important areas are almost always tested. Okay? This, along with your CFRN indicator set, will help ensure that you're on the right side of the trade. All right, we gotta shake a leg here. Yes. I don't know, where did that saying come from? I remember my grandparents and my parents, they used to shake a leg. Well, because what they were saying was hurry up. All right. Well, if I'm standing there shaking my leg, how can I hurry up? So anyway, another fun fact to know and tell. All right, let's see. 10 o'clock is what we decided, right? Right. Yeah. 2,200 hours. 10 o'clock. 10 and 12 is 22. So there's 22. Little red candle. Little red candle. 2,200 hours. Okay. Now, I had originally said buy 18,150 and sell 18,0800. But that wasn't possible because of where the market was. So one of my very astute subscribers emailed me right away and says, Dwayne, please check the YM numbers. I think you mistyped. And he was right. And I sent him an email and I said, thanks for the heads up. And I sent everybody out a corrected version before anything could trigger. Okay? So, the correct, and here's where I messed it up. See how I put buy sell? I was going to type in the buy here and the sell here. So I said buy sell 18,080 and sell 18,025. I didn't get any emails, so apparently everyone knew I meant buy 18,080, sell 18,025. Okay? Now, which were we given the opportunity to actually do? Shake a leg, rouse yourself from sleep, and get out of bed. Okay. All right, that makes sense. I can buy that. All right, so we're looking to buy 18080. Wow. That stings when that happens. This thing ran up to 108,085. What are you going to do? Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to label it a stop out. And somebody says, well, it did give 5 ticks. Yeah, but with the Concierge Trade Alerts, we're looking for a little bit bigger game than 5 ticks. But you're right, it did give 5 ticks. Now, sell 180.25. Did I create my line yet? No, I didn't. Okay, so I'll create it now. $180. Just need a straight line. There we go, one straight line. Okay. Right click. Now let me try that again. clicking it, I'm right-clicking it, I'm copying it, and now if I did it right, when I right-click it, I got something to paste. It worked. All right, so let's move this up to 108025. 25. All right, here we are. Cell 108025. All right. The Dow pays $5 a point. If all you're looking to do is to simply just make your daily goal, $100 per contract, because you understand that the answer to the trading equation, the reason 90% of day traders fail is because they think more points is the answer. It's not. More contracts are the answer. However, you have to get to the more contracts part of the equation by being consistently profitable as you're taking your test to go live with real money. And then you have to use that one contract to increase your account balance by 2,000. Then you go on a calendar-based method. By the time you hit 6 months, good chance you're trading 4 contracts. 4 is a great number because that's $400 a day gross. That's $2,000 a week gross. And even if you're a mediocre trader and it takes you 10 trades every day to gross $100, listen carefully. If it takes you 10 trades every day to gross $100, you will still graduate at the end of 24 months as a 20 contract trader. Hence the name 24/20 Blueprint. Okay? Market is faithful, shows up to work every day, takes a couple of holidays, but you know, we all need a day off now and then. But if there's not a holiday and there's not some man-made or God-made event that forces the markets to be closed, they're open. With or without you, they're turning and burning. Okay? So if you sell 108025, the first swing low takes you down to 98. Yeah? Wait a minute. Yep, 98. So we got 27 points on our first move. How many do you need? 20. 27 points available. Okay. The next move down, it wasn't quite so. Got down to 805. And so that gave you 22. So that again gave you your daily goal. And then back above trigger, we pull back, leg, retrace, leg, retrace, leg, retrace, and then boom, big leg. Okay, this one takes us down to 963. So 63 would be 27. That makes sense, doesn't it? Ah, gosh. Gonna have to break out the calculator. I'm so embarrassed. Should have not slept through math class. I never knew I would actually need it. 17963. No, is that? Oh, I could have. 17963. 17963 equals 62 points at $5 per point. We're just going to call it $300 per contract available. Thomas is going to be in studio with me next Monday and Tuesday. For those of you who are partners and come to the partners workshop on Thursday nights, the gentleman who opens us in prayer faithfully every Thursday night, he and his wife are taking a little mini vacation, and they're going to land and spend 3, technically 4 days, I guess, in Phoenix. He'll be coming in Sunday night, so we'll have some dinner. Then he's going to be in studio with me Monday and I think Tuesday, and then Tuesday afternoon or either Wednesday morning, he flies back out to go back to Florida to go back to work. So it's going to be very interesting to meet him. We've spent a lot of time on the phone talking. Our mentoring sessions have become more like two old buddies just getting together and having a chat. But I'm looking forward to that. And he'll come on the air and he'll share with you, and you can ask him questions, and you can ask him stuff like, what color is my paint on the wall, and do I have shag carpeting, and and that kind of stuff. All right, so the swing low is 936. Okay, let's do it the long way. 18025 minus 1793 17936 7936 89 points. $89 points. So about basically $450 per, what was I thinking? $89 points available per contract. And call it $450. All right, so stop out on the long side. On the short side, we're looking to sell 180.25 and 27-point move, 22-point move, $300 move, and then a $450 move. If you're trading the 2420 blueprint, your goal is simply $100 per contract per day. Okay. All right. Let's go check on gold. That's 2200. 2200. Okay. So gold, here we come. Coming for you. GGCZ6. Be a buyer at 22 and a seller at 19. I always know it's going to get messy when that happens, but you know, I got to play it by the numbers. If I start messing with the numbers, then things get real wonky real quick. And wonky's not good. All right, so 1320, what? Yeah. Okay, so this is when I was working on the numbers. This is when they hit the bricks. Yeah? I was explaining that to somebody yesterday when they were saying, well, do I have to stay up all night or can I trade them the next day? I said, you know, typically what will happen is either they'll trigger in the first half hour to maybe 2 hours after they come out. So that might be 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. If they don't trigger then it becomes a high probability that they're going to trigger off the London Open, which is 3 a.m. Eastern. And whether they trigger or not at the 3 a.m. Open, and they probably will if they didn't trigger earlier, when Wall Street opens, there's a good chance they'll then trigger yet again. So just kind of keep that in mind. And let's see where that took us. We're looking to buy. $13.22. Okay. So off goes the first move, and you know, if this shook you out, I'm sorry. From 13.22 up to a swing high at, I don't know, let's use this swing high. What the heck? 25.20. So that's $320 per contract. The swing high was, oh, I said I was going to do it way back here, didn't I? The swing high here was 25.20. So that's $320. $320 per contract available. Okay. Got it. Now that's just that first little swing high. Remember, you only need to make $100 if you're trading the blueprint. Now, if you wrote it out, put in a swing high up at 27.50, so that would be 5.5 points or $550. Oh. Now, since our first date, I've always told you, look left when trading. You teach your kids when they cross the street to look left and look right. But when you're trading, you look left, okay? Because you want to see where the potential for your trade is to go. I'd say that's pretty close. From here up to here, came off of here. Well, where'd that come from? Right there. But I've said too much already. Now the swing low here is 13.2280. Really? Oh, that's because I got my 13.22 in the wrong place. Okay. So, price attempted a pullback here, but it didn't make it all the way back. Now, I calculated it using the numbers, so I know these numbers are still right. But what I thought was, I thought we had a third trade, but it didn't pull back. Price would have needed to pull back and get below the trigger. Now, if you rode this out and rode this out, gosh, I would have hated to see you get stopped out on this pullback here. However, if your stop is where I teach you to put it in the private mentoring session, you're never in any danger whatsoever of getting stopped out. This swing high here actually ran up to 39.80. I'm not even going to write it down because I don't think you'd have stayed in the trade. You know, when this thing started pulling back here, you already made $500. 6:30 in the morning. You know, it's time to cut bait and go embrace life. So we'll see what happens the rest of the day. Now the buy side on gold was, the sell side on gold was 13.19. So I don't think we'll see that today. Doesn't look like it. Let's get moving. Bonds. Okay. So 2200 hours. Big red candle. Okay. All right. Bonds, CBC by 165.29. Well, that didn't do a lot, did it? 165. Oh, I forgot to do the deal. $165.28. All right, so this is 165.28, but I need 29. Doggone it. Give me one more take. There's 29. All right, that's what we're talking about. Okay, swing high. I got to write it down. Union. Buy. Bonds, everywhere bonds. They come and go as if they were the only. 165.29. You would only know that song if you hung out in the backwoods of Oregon in the late 80s. I think, no, Oh no, that was from downtown Phoenix. Oh, never mind. God, what an interesting story that was. Poor man took his life. What a tragedy. He's a great soul, too. So there's 32 ticks to a point. So 28 to 32, that's 4 ticks. Swing high was 12. So 12 and 4 is 16. $16 points available. I'm sorry, 16 ticks available at 31.25 per tick. Okay. Oh, I almost forgot. Some of you got an email last night who took the free trial that was offered over the weekend on the Concierge Trade Alerts. And so I sent some of you an email, and it said, if you took the trial and if you like what you have experienced so far, I want to do a special radio broadcast. It will actually be more of a podcast. It will be archived on the site, and it will be talking with a group of individuals who actually, have gone through the trial. And if you've gone through the trial and gone on to be a client and you want to participate, you can. I only have 10 slots available at this point. So what I want, well, that was last night. I probably got about 5 now. What I need you to do is let me know, support@cfrn.net. Let me know that you do want to participate, and to say thank you, because I know that your time is valuable, and it will take about 10 minutes to do your interview. You'll give us a little background information on yourself, what you've done in the past, what kind of trading education you had, and how the Concierge Trade Alerts have made a difference in your life. Okay? I don't want any BS. I want nothing but the truth. Okay? Nothing but the truth. And because I respect your time and I know your time is valuable, when you subscribe, I will add 1 week at no charge to your subscription. If you're already a subscriber, then I will add a week to your current subscription. Whether you're subscribed for a quarter or for a year, I will add 1 week. So your renewal date will get moved up a week, okay? Whether it's quarterly or annually, you're going to get a week free for 10 minutes of your time to give an honest critique of how the Concierge Trade Alerts have affected you and your trading style and how much time you spend trading each day. And, has it been a blessing or a curse? You tell me, okay? That's going to make for a very, very interesting program, all right? 16 ticks available at $31.25 per tick. If you didn't get that email and you have an interest in being on that particular show, it's going to be a standalone broadcast. It won't be a part of this radio program. It's going to be its own show, and it's going to actually lead into something that we're going to do weekly, all right? So 16 times 31.25, it's exactly $500 per contract available on that move. $500 per contract available. Okay. If you don't know how to get a hold of me, you can call me 623-500-1355, 623-500-1355. Also, you can email me, of course, support@cfrn.net. Now, I know everyone who took the trial over the weekend got the video, how to trade the Concierge Trade Alerts. But for some of you that have been subscribers for, quite some time, some of you a couple years, I need you to send me an email and say, hey, Dwayne, I'd like a copy of that video too. And it's not listed. I use YouTube to store it, but it's not listed. So like if you go through the directory, you won't be able to find it. I have to actually email you the link. Now that video is copyright protected, and I'm real serious about this. It doesn't get shared with people that are not a Concierge Trade Alert client, or you let me do the sharing. How about that? And then you won't get yourself in any trouble. All right, let's move along, move along. Let's go to crude oil. Okay. We'll take these fibs out. These, again, are last week's weekly trading zones. I will put out this week's trading zones to the public tomorrow. When you tune into the radio show tomorrow, you'll be staring at this week's weekly trading zones. Now, partners get the zones at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, Monday morning, before the market opens. If you're a Gmail client, you must look in your promotions folder. You probably say, I ain't got no promotions folder. Hover over the little inbox icon, and a whole little raft of folders will drop below it, and one of them is called promotions. And Gmail, their algorithm looks at any type of email that was sent as a group email. In other words, they know it was sent by a robot and not a person. They consider that a promotion, and so they put it in the promotions folder. Now, you can fix that. You can click on that email in your promotions folder, and then you can go up and say, create a filter. When emails like this come in, send them to my inbox. Or you can actually create a separate folder and call it Concierge Trade Alerts. And then what would happen is every time your Concierge Trade Alerts come in, they'll automatically get filtered out and put in the promotions folder. So that's where, not your promotions folder, but your Concierge Trade Alert folder. That way you can keep every set of alerts you get out. Every set of alerts that you get, you can archive them over a period of time so that you can do your own studies, and you can, you can someday teach me a thing or two about trading these numbers, okay? So just a hint, just a tip, just an idea. If you have any problem at all getting your emails from support@cfrn.net or from Citrix, which is the company that handles GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting, you simply need to whitelist their domains. In tomorrow night's invitation to the Partners Workshop, there will be a list of every email client known to man and the instructions on how to whitelist any email address. Obviously, I use CFRN and Citrix as the examples. So it's a piece of cake, and it'll make your life so much easier. All right? Okay, crude oil, 2,200 hours. Let's take a look. And that's going to be that little tiny candle right there. Boy, you'd think the market had gone to sleep. And suddenly it sprang awake. So 2,200. All right. Tuesday night, crude oil, GCLV6. Be a buyer at 45.35, or a seller at 44.75. Okay. A buyer at 45.35. All right. Crude by 45.35. Based 45.35. The swing high was 32. So we did not trigger the long side. Sweet. 44.75. Sweeter. 44.75. Perfect. Sell 44.75. Okay. All right. From 44.75. Okay. We know that anybody that was trailing this is going to get taken out on that. Okay. So to say this was a swing low and maybe you stayed in and maybe you didn't, well, that's just pulling your leg. So we're going to use this swing low right here. Swing low. It's 43. Oh, come on. Today's one of those days when the eyes just don't want to focus quite right. 43.74. Oh, I love it when that happens. I get to play my special sound file. Bad habit, old habits, hard to break. This is the only way you break them. $43.75. Okay. All right. Where'd it go? Here it is. Gee whiz, what happened that time? $1,000. Per contract available. Now, what's our rule of thumb? Anytime you make $1,000 per contract in one day, you take the mouse and walk away. Uh-oh, I see a problem. I played my file prematurely. Because you see, the pullback happened on this candle. Because that was crude oil inventories. Oh, Shazam. Okay, well, don't I feel silly? Most of the time. All right, so what do we got? What do we got? The swing low of this candle is 44.16. So there was no gee whiz. 75 minus 16 is, oh, I want to weep. It don't seem right, but math doesn't lie, does it? It's the old saying, liars figure and figures lie. Okay, so that was $590 per contract available. Okay, my mistake. Now the thing did go $1,000 per contract. There's no doubting that, but you didn't hold through this drawdown. I'm sorry, you just didn't. Now, this really was $1,000 per contract, but nobody got that, so I'm going to make this go away. Okay. Now, what would it look like if you had your indicators on there? Okay. Well, where's the official sell signal to get out of this trade? Right there. Let me blow it up so you can see it. Now, I still wouldn't recommend, oh no, based on the rules of the indicators, you're still in the trade. 44.75 to 43.75 was a grand. We're now down at 43.40. You see, when the step line gets on a short trade, when the step line gets on the north side of the MA1 and a green candle closes above the step line, that's the market telling you to take your exit. Yes, you will leave some on the table. Sometimes you'll lose quite a bit. You'll leave quite a bit on the table. Over time, though, you'll also learn how to handle this, okay? All right, let's move on. ZSX 6. 2,200 hours. $2,200. Okay. $2,200. Okay. So on soybeans, we're looking to be buyers at 48, which, did it happen? Touched 48 to the tick. Now, if you were buying on a stop limit, you may or may not have gotten triggered in. But since some people don't even know how to execute that type of order, I'm just going to call it a stop out. Okay. And on the other side, we were looking to sell 941. That's 2 days in a row, I think. No, yesterday we did good on soybeans. But we're ending our run on November beans, and November beans are the kindest bean of all. 941. Another stop out. Stopped out on both sides on beans. Does that mean you should stop trading beans? No, not at all. It just means we had a rough day in beans. Every other market we've looked at has been pretty awesome. NQ 2200 red candle. All right, 2200. And we are on the NQ. And on the NQ, we were looking to be buyers at 43 and sellers at 27. Buyers at 43. You almost got me. $47, 43. Oh, man. Buy 47, 43. Oh boy. I was going to be done a half an hour ago. So, okay. This is where we need to talk about where we're going to put our stop loss. Okay? Our initial stop loss is going to get us stopped out on this trade. Okay? But it's not actually being totally honest with you. I don't think I would have taken this trade. This trade went up to 47, 46 and a half. That's 3.5 points. You need 5. And this went up to 45.75, so that's 2 3/4. Man, I'm just going to be brutally honest and say, sometimes it happens. And even though this is a beautiful trade, I think unless you have a really large risk profile because you've been trading for a long time and etc. and so on, I think you'd have walked away from this because of the amount of risk required to take the trade. Now, it went from 43 all the way up to 71. God, what is that? 71 minus 43. It's 28 points times $20 per point. It's $560 per contract. And I'm telling you, you got to walk away from that. That's what I'm telling you. Yep. I mean, you don't have to. You could have taken the trade. But I think it's more risk than most people would probably want to put on a trade. It's my honest opinion. Could just take credit for it and go, ooh wee. But I want to be honest. I want to be transparent. I want you to not have a head full of unrealistic expectations. I want you to be able to rightly divide the word of truth and decide, you know, is this what's right for you? Okay? It's the only way I can sleep at night. Okay. What chapter of the Bible is that where God said, if I can find 100 honest men, no, if I can find just 50. And I think he finally got down to one. He says, if I can find just one honest man. It's kind of that way on Wall Street sometimes, it seems. I mean, that's a far-reaching statement. There's a lot of good people on Wall Street, quality, honest people, God-fearing, church-going, tax-paying people. But there's also a lot of people who, well, let's just say their only goal in life is to separate you from your money before you even get to Wall Street. Okay, now, yeah, all right, I gotta get out of here. Russell, 2,200 hours. Okay. So I'm 30, I'm one candle over, or one, yeah. Dwayne, you know what happens when you get in a hurry? Nothing good. 2,200. Okay. So on the Russell, we usually do pretty good. But last night on the Russell, we said to be a buyer at 15 and a seller at 06. All right, we can see the swing high was 16 right here. Here's 15. In fact, that should be at 15. So there was a 1-point gain on the long side, and on the short side, 1206. If you sold 1206, you got, well, if you sold 1206, I gotta stop being so hard on myself. That's still $170 per contract. If you're trading the 2420 blueprint. Now, granted, there might be some risk issues also on this. We were selling RL, we're selling 1206, which is right there, paste, 1206. I wish getting my eyes checked would help. But they just get tired from staring at these screens. So there's $150 per contract available, and it doesn't look like this is going to turn into anything worthwhile. This would have been $120 per contract right here. But that's a stop out right there. Gosh, sometimes, I'm telling you, some markets will just worse. Good news is most people don't trade the Russell these days because of the data fees. The people who trade the data can afford the loss, if that's any consolation, and it's not really. And I'm not trying to make any kind of an excuse either, because I don't believe in that. The whole woulda, coulda, shoulda thing, I got no time for that. Honest, transparent, the real deal. Look where I drew that line earlier, and look where the market bounced. Now, before somebody starts going, oh, so now he's the prophet. No, I'm not. I don't prophesy the markets. I use simple logic, okay? That's all. And I went through with each one of these, I went through each one of them with you, why they behaved in the manner that they behaved. Now, this 11 just changed quite significantly. We were selling 21.26, and we put in a low of 21.12. So that's actually 14. And so if that one changed that drastically, I'm going to guess some of the other ones may have as well. Not 114. How about just 14? All right, guys, I got to go. Wish I could stay and hang out with you, shoot the breeze, but I got mentoring sessions, people waiting on me. We got to get the invitations out. If you have a mentoring session scheduled this afternoon, please have your headset ready. If you're not going to be using a headset, when you log in 5 minutes before your mentoring session, give or take, you get an email. The subject line says CFRN mentoring, okay? Click the link and you'll be connected to a go-to meeting where just you and I will be present. We don't have to type messages to each other. We can just talk and carry on a conversation, okay? So if you're scheduled for this afternoon, I'm going to send out the first invitation, and while I'm talking to the first person, I'll try to get the second invitation sent out, and so forth and so on throughout the afternoon, okay? So that's how it works. You probably, if it's your first mentoring session, you're sitting there wondering, how does this work? How do I know what to do? I'm going to send you an email that tells you exactly what to do, okay? Thank you so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, wait, I forgot to check the chat box. See if there's any final questions. Will the price of silver hit 25 or 15 per ounce first? Jim, I don't know. Like I said, I don't prophesy. I know that my friend who's accumulating physical silver would prefer to see it hit 25. In fact, he wants to see it hit 36, I think, so that he can sell half of his position and ride the other half of the position for free into the sunset. So we'll see if he gets what he wants. Frederick asked a question. What about OTAD traders? Can we get a copy of that video? You know what, Frederick? Nobody's asked me that question, but I think you can. I'm not going to mass mail them, but if you'll just send me a little email to support@cfrn.net and just say, Dwayne, could I get a copy of the Concierge Trade Alert video? Just call it CTA. Can I get a copy of that CTA video? I'll send you a copy, okay? Now that goes for anyone else who's listening right now that wants to watch that video. It might do one of two things. It might help you become a better OTAD trader, or it might help you decide that the Concierge Trade Alerts are really a better instrument for you. But either way, I will send it to you. And so thank you for bringing that up. You know, Frederick, I hadn't even thought about that. Oh, and David said that was Abraham asking about Lot in Sodom when he was trying to find one honest man. I thought that's who it was, but I wasn't absolutely sure. I was going to go look it up later. But thank you. All right, guys. I love you all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-host, and guest. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any securities. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.